We gave you every opportunity and you threw it away, my mother sobbed dramatically, dabbing at dry eyes with a designer handkerchief while the entire bankruptcy courtroom watched. My father sat beside her, jaw clenched with theatrical disappointment, nodding gravely as their lawyer presented forged documents claiming I owed my brother $1.8 million. My lawyer, Patricia Okonkwo, stayed perfectly calm beside me, her briefcase containing evidence that would soon detonate like a bomb in this room. But why did Judge Harrison suddenly stop reading the petition, remove his glasses, and stare at me with an expression of growing disbelief? Counsel, approach the bench. Both of you. Now. The lawyers walked forward. I watched the judge whisper something that made my brother's attorney turn pale. I read about this company in Forbes last week, Judge Harrison said, his voice now audible throughout the silent courtroom. Meridian Tech Solutions. The cybersecurity startup that just closed a $94 million contract with the Department of Homeland Security. Someone in this courtroom is lying to my face, and I intend to find out who. My brother Marcus's confident smirk vanished. My mother's fake tears stopped instantly. My father's righteous posture crumbled. And I stood there silently, waiting for the destruction I'd spent 8 years preparing for. I founded Meridian Tech Solutions 9 years ago with $4,200 in savings and a laptop held together with duct tape. The Whitmore family didn't do duct tape. We did prestige, old money, and appearances. My father, Theodore Whitmore, ran one of Boston's most respected wealth management firms. My brother Marcus was being groomed as his successor, the golden child who could do no wrong. My younger sister Diana had married into pharmaceutical money and spent her days organizing charity galas. And me? Serena Whitmore, the middle child, the embarrassment, the one who'd thrown away a Harvard MBA to chase what my father called computer nonsense. He'd laughed when I'd presented my business plan at 25. That's a hobby, not a career. Get a real job. Join Marcus at the firm. Stop embarrassing this family with your little experiments. There's a massive gap in the market for small business security protocols. There's a massive gap in your understanding of how business works. You'll fail. You'll come crawling back. And when you do, you'll take whatever position Marcus decides to give you. I won't fail. They all say that, sweetheart. They all fail. I walked out of his mahogany-paneled office and never asked for his approval again. The first 6 years nearly killed me. I lived in a studio apartment the size of my childhood closet, surviving on instant noodles and coffee that cost more in exhaustion than dollars. I worked 18-hour days learning every aspect of cybersecurity from the ground up: coding, networking, threat analysis, client relations. I made mistakes that almost destroyed me: a partnership with a con artist who stole my first prototype, a client who refused to pay for 6 months of work, a server crash that wiped out everything during a crucial demo. Cybersecurity? My family watched from their gilded towers, waiting for the collapse they'd predicted. Still playing with computers? Marcus would ask at Thanksgiving, swirling bourbon in a crystal glass. Dad's got an entry-level position available. Just say the word. Still working on that little hobby? Mom would add, her voice dripping with manufactured concern. We worry about you, darling. It's not too late to find a suitable husband instead. I stopped attending family gatherings after year 4. The energy I wasted defending myself was better spent building my company. And build it I did. Meridian Tech Solutions developed proprietary intrusion detection systems that could identify and neutralize cyber threats faster than anything on the market. We won our first government subcontract in year 5. Our second in year 6. By year 8, we had 63 employees, $18 million in annual revenue, and a reputation as one of the most innovative cybersecurity firms on the East Coast. The $94 million contract came through 7 weeks ago. A multi-year agreement with the Department of Homeland Security to implement our technology across critical infrastructure nationwide. Forbes ran a feature calling us the startup that's revolutionizing federal cybersecurity. The Wall Street Journal profiled our technology. Venture capitalists were suddenly desperate to talk to me. My family had no idea. I'd kept my success deliberately hidden, using my married name, Serena Mitchell, for all public appearances and press coverage. The few distant relatives who'd stumbled across news about Meridian Tech didn't connect S. Mitchell, CEO, with the daughter they'd written off as a failure. I preferred it that way. Their approval was something I'd stopped needing years ago. But apparently, their interference was something I still had to handle. The bankruptcy petition arrived 4 weeks after the contract announcement. It was filed by Marcus, claiming that Meridian Tech Solutions owed him $1.8 million from a significant investment he'd made in year 3. The petition alleged that I'd defaulted on repayment terms, that the company was hopelessly insolvent, and that creditors needed immediate court protection to recover what they were owed. Every single word was a lie. Marcus had never invested a penny in my company. He'd never shown any interest beyond mockery. The documentation accompanying the petition was completely fabricated, loan agreements I'd never signed, financial statements that bore zero resemblance to reality, contracts with forged signatures that looked nothing like my handwriting. It was fraud. Blatant, arrogant fraud designed to destroy everything I'd built. I called Patricia immediately. "They're trying to force you into bankruptcy proceedings using forged documents," she said after reviewing the filing. "It's incredibly stupid. Forensic analysis will expose the fraud within days. But the filing itself creates legal complications that could delay your DHS contract implementation. That might be the real goal." That's exactly what they want. Marcus somehow found out I have a government contract. He's trying to sabotage it before anyone realizes how big it is. How would he know about the contract? My aunt works at a law firm that handles some of our compliance paperwork. She must have mentioned something at a family dinner. I exhaled slowly. They don't know the scale. They just know I have something worth destroying. Why would your own family want to destroy your success? Because my success proves everything they believed about me was wrong. Some people would rather burn down the evidence than admit they misjudged someone. The court date fell on a Wednesday morning in late October. I arrived early, dressed in a navy suit that cost more than my first year's salary, understated, professional, commanding without being flashy. Patricia joined me at the defendant's table with 4 boxes of documentation proving Meridian's actual financial status, audited statements, bank records, tax filings, and forensic handwriting analysis of every signature on Marcus's fraudulent documents. My family arrived 20 minutes later, staging an entrance designed for maximum dramatic impact. Marcus wore the same kind of power suit he'd worn in his firm's promotional materials, Italian, impeccable, expensive. Mom had dressed in somber black, as if attending a funeral. Dad carried himself with the rigid posture of a patriarch whose family honor had been gravely offended by his daughter's existence. They didn't acknowledge me. Not a glance, not a nod, not a flicker of recognition. I was the problem to be eliminated, not a family member to be greeted. Finally facing consequences, Marcus said to his lawyer, deliberately loud enough for me to hear. "Should have happened years ago. Dad always said she'd end up like this." The hearing began. Marcus's lawyer presented the petition with theatrical gravity. He described my failing company, my pattern of financial irresponsibility, my refusal to honor legitimate debts. My mother sobbed on cue. My father shook his head in practiced disappointment. It was a performance worthy of daytime television. Then Judge Harrison asked for the company documentation. He reviewed the papers in silence for several minutes. His expression shifted from professional neutrality to confusion to something harder, anger, barely controlled. "Counsel, approach the bench. Both of you. Now." The whispered conversation lasted nearly 5 minutes. Marcus's lawyer turned visibly pale. Patricia remained composed, nodding occasionally. When Judge Harrison spoke again, his voice carried throughout the courtroom. "I read about this company in Forbes magazine last week. Meridian Tech Solutions. The cybersecurity startup that just secured a $94 million contract with the Department of Homeland Security." He removed his glasses and stared directly at my brother. "The company you're claiming is insolvent. The company you're claiming owes you $1.8 million from an investment that, according to the defendant's documentation, never occurred." Marcus's confident mask cracked. "Your Honor, the defendant is lying. I haven't finished." Judge Harrison's voice cut like a blade. "I'm looking at audited financial statements from a Big Four accounting firm showing this company has $18 million in annual revenue. I'm looking at bank records that show no record of any investment from you. I'm looking at forensic handwriting analysis from the FBI's certified document examiner concluding that every signature on your loan agreements is forged." My mother's sobbing stopped instantly. My father's righteous posture collapsed. "Someone in this courtroom is lying to my face," the judge continued. "And based on the evidence before me, I have a very clear picture of who that someone is." Patricia stood. "Your Honor, we have prepared a comprehensive response to this fraudulent petition." For the next 45 minutes, she systematically dismantled every claim my family had made. The forged signatures didn't match my handwriting in any of the 23 comparison samples. The loan agreements referenced bank accounts that didn't exist. The financial statements claimed losses during quarters when Meridian had actually posted record profits. The investment Marcus claimed to have made occurred during a period when his own bank records showed he'd been overdrawn for 3 consecutive months. Furthermore, Your Honor, Patricia continued, Meridian Tech Solutions provides critical cybersecurity infrastructure to the Department of Homeland Security. Interfering with a federal contractor through fraudulent court filings may constitute a federal crime under 18 U.S.C. Section 1001 and potentially raises national security concerns. Marcus shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. it's just my sister's little computer company. Your sister's little computer company protects critical infrastructure from cyber attacks. Judge Harrison's voice was ice. Power grids. Water treatment facilities. Emergency response systems. Sabotaging it isn't just fraud, it potentially endangers public safety. He turned to me. Ms. Mitchell, or should I say Ms. Whitmore, I apologize for the court's time being wasted by this malicious filing. Your company's reputation will not be affected by these proceedings. I'm entering an immediate dismissal with prejudice, and I'm referring this matter to the U.S. Attorney's Office for investigation of bankruptcy fraud, perjury, and potential interference with a federal contractor. Thank you, Your Honor. Case dismissed. The aftermath was chaos. Court officers approached Marcus and his lawyer regarding the criminal referral. My parents tried to slip out quietly through a side door, but I caught my mother's eye as she reached for the handle. Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore. I kept my voice perfectly level. I assume you were aware of this scheme. My father turned slowly. His face was gray. Serena, this was Marcus's idea. You were in the gallery nodding along while he tried to destroy my company. Don't pretend you weren't part of it. We thought we were helping, my mother said, her voice small and stripped of its usual imperious tone. Marcus said the company was failing. He said you'd taken money from dangerous people. We thought this would save you from yourself. You thought what Marcus told you because believing him was easier than admitting you were wrong about me. I gathered my files. The $94 million contract? That's real. The 63 employees who depend on Meridian? They're real. The technology we've developed that protects American infrastructure? That's real too. You tried to destroy all of it because my success made you uncomfortable. Serena, please. I'm done. Whatever happens to Marcus legally is his own problem. Whatever story you tell yourselves to sleep at night is yours. But don't contact me again. Don't pretend we're family. Family doesn't try to bankrupt each other with forged documents in open court. I walked out of the courthouse without looking back. The federal investigation moved faster than anyone expected. Marcus's lawyer, facing potential disbarment, cooperated fully with investigators. He revealed that Marcus had approached him with the scheme, insisting that Meridian was a pathetic failure that needed to be put out of its misery before it could further embarrass the Whitmore name. The lawyer had been negligent, accepting his client's claims without verification, but the primary fraud was entirely Marcus's design. Federal charges were filed within 8 weeks. Bankruptcy fraud. Perjury. Attempted interference with a government contractor. Marcus faced up to 20 years in federal prison. My father emptied his political connections and a significant portion of his personal fortune to secure a plea deal. Marcus would plead guilty to reduced charges, serve 4 years in a minimum security facility, lose his position at the family firm permanently, and carry a federal felony conviction for the rest of his life. The Whitmore wealth management firm survived, but barely. News of the fraud spread through Boston's financial community like wildfire. High net worth clients don't trust their money to families where the heir apparent commits federal crimes. My father was forced into early retirement. The firm was sold to a larger competitor at a fraction of its previous value. My mother sent a letter 8 months after Marcus began his sentence. It was 12 pages of justifications and non-apologies. We never meant for things to go this far. Families should support each other through difficult times. Surely you understand we only wanted what was best for you. I didn't respond. Meridian Tech Solutions celebrated its 11th anniversary last month. We've grown to 187 employees across 3 facilities. Our contracts with federal agencies now total $420 million over the next 7 years. We've expanded into private sector cybersecurity, protecting major financial institutions and healthcare systems. Fortune magazine listed us among the 50 most innovative companies in America. I was named to Forbes's Women Leading Tech list for the 3rd consecutive year. The Wall Street Journal ran a follow-up piece with the headline, "The cybersecurity mogul whose family tried to bankrupt her, and failed." I gave one interview about the case, carefully worded, focusing on the legal implications rather than personal drama. The reporter asked me why I thought my brother had done it. Some people would rather destroy evidence than admit they were wrong, I said. Success that contradicts their worldview isn't something to celebrate, it's something to eliminate. Do you maintain any relationship with your biological family now? I have an extraordinary relationship with the family I've chosen. My husband, my employees, my partners, the people who believed in me when I had nothing but a garage and a vision. The people who celebrated my wins instead of trying to manufacture my failures. And your parents? Your brother? They made their choice in that courtroom. I've made mine. Last week, my sister Diana reached out for the first time since the trial. She'd always been peripheral to the family warfare, too absorbed in her own social climbing to pay attention to mine. But the scandal had apparently damaged her standing in her precious country club circles. People whispered about her brother the felon, her parents the enablers, her family's spectacular public disgrace. I know you probably don't want to hear from anyone with our last name, she wrote. But I wanted you to know that I never agreed with how they treated you. I was too weak to say anything at the time, too focused on my own life. But I always knew you'd prove them wrong. I just never had the courage to say it out loud. It was a half apology, weighted with self-preservation. She wanted to separate herself from the family catastrophe, to position herself as the sibling who'd secretly supported me all along. I wrote back a single sentence, support expressed only after I succeeded isn't support, it's just positioning. But I appreciate the honesty about your silence. I meant it. I didn't forgive her, but I acknowledged the gesture. Growth has to begin somewhere, even when it begins too late. My daughter was born 4 months ago. Her name is Grace, after my husband James's grandmother, a woman who raised 4 children alone during the Depression, who built a bakery from nothing, who taught her descendants that hard work trumps pedigree every single time. I hold Grace in the nursery of the home I built, a home I purchased with money I earned, in a neighborhood I chose, surrounded by people I've selected instead of people I was born to. I tell her stories about persistence and determination, about building things that matter, about the profound difference between people who lift you up and people who try to drag you down. Your other grandparents, my parents, they won't be part of your life, I told her last night, even though she's too young to understand the words. That's not punishment. It's protection. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see your potential as something to nurture, not something to diminish. She blinked at me with those newborn eyes that don't quite focus yet, trusting and pure. You're going to do extraordinary things, Grace. And when you do, I'll be your biggest champion. Not because you succeeded, but because you tried. That's what family actually means. Not shared genetics. Shared belief. I placed her gently in her crib and watched her drift into sleep, this tiny person who would never know the family that rejected her mother. She'd know the family that chose her mother instead. That's enough. That's more than enough. They hired a lawyer expecting to finally prove I was the failure they'd always claimed. Instead, they proved themselves frauds, literally and publicly. The judge recognized my company because we'd built something worth recognizing, worth protecting, worth defending. They thought they were shutting down an embarrassment. They were attempting to destroy a $94 million success story. The courtroom wasn't their victory parade. It was their exposure, their unraveling, their reckoning. And now, while Marcus serves his sentence and my parents fade into irrelevance, Meridian Tech Solutions keeps growing. Keeps building. Keeps proving that the only thing more powerful than family doubt is personal determination. They gave me every opportunity to fail. I gave myself every reason to succeed.